Hey guys, Chris from Provo Beast Audio Installation, and in today's video we're going to be replacing the factory touchscreen radio on this 2017 Toyota Tundra. Now in this install we're going to be pulling this OEM style radio out and installing an aftermarket doubled-in touchscreen in its place. Let's get started. Now before we jump into things here, a couple of things to note. We do have steering wheel volume controls and a factory backup camera that we do want to retain. There is a factory amplifier underneath the passenger front seat, but it is not the JBL and should not impact or change the way that we're doing this install whatsoever. If you do have the JBL factory upgraded sound system, we'll make note of those variation in parts down in the description of the video. So as we get started here, let's go ahead and get this radio on out. Tools that I have is a 10mm socket with an extension, as well as a panel tool. So what we're going to use this panel tool for is to pop these panels off down below, and then it's going to expose our 4 10mm bolts. Once those are removed, the rest of the radio is just held on with clips. Okay, so with those out of the way, again, just held on with clips, it'll expose your 4 10mm bolts. Alright, so with those 4 10mm removed, go ahead and just give a tug on the radio. It should come on out. Now before we actually disconnect any harness, make sure your discs have been removed out of the radio. Once you pull the radio out, you're going to have some various harnesses. Go ahead and disconnect everything that's connected to the radio. Most times here, you can press the little locking tab and pull the harness out. The plug should come free from the radio. Okay, so with the radio free, at this point of time, let's head over to the bench to show you all the parts that we're going to need to install an aftermarket radio in its place.
This video is sponsored by Crux Interfacing Solutions, an excellent location for radio replacements, camera interfaces, and more. Check out cruxinterfacing.com to start planning your next install today.
Alright, so here we are at the bench. Now, obviously our factory radio's on out here at the bench, and we want to install this aftermarket one. So to accommodate an aftermarket radio, we'll need some bits and pieces to make that happen. Now the radio that we've chosen to go with is this Kenwood doubled-in touchscreen radio that features both Apple Carplay and Android Auto. This is the Kenwood DNR 476S. To accommodate that in the factory location, we need a doubled-in dash kit, and the customer has brought us this Scosh TA2116B. This is painted to match the factory dash, kind of like what the factory radio looks like here, so it should look great in that location. And then wiring wise, we need this Crux wiring harness adapter. This is the SWRTY-61N for 2012 and up Toyota vehicles. This will retain our backup camera, steering wheel controls, factory, non-JBL amplifier, everything else that we need. And again, if you have the factory JBL sound system, we'll add those parts and those notes down in the description for you. Nice thing is this includes antenna adapter, USB adapter, and everything else needed all in one kit. So at this point in time, what we're going to do is grab the harness out of our adapter kit here, and the harness that came with our aftermarket radio. And what we'll be doing is preparing that wiring by stripping both ends, and then we're going to start soldering up our radio harness with our harness adapter, color for color. Okay, so what we've done here is we grabbed our main harness adapter and the radio harness. We stripped both ends here, and we're going to start matching up color for color. And again, if you're not sure what color goes where, double check the instructions that come with your Crux interface. Now before we actually solder these up, we're going to put some heat shrink up and over the wire, and then once the soldering connection cools, we'll move it up and over that connection and shrink it down with a heat gun. Let's get started. Alright, so we finished soldering up our harness, just color for color. Now, you're probably wondering, well, what's this big black wire here? We actually happen to be installing a 4-channel amplifier, so this is just a little bit of speed wire from the output of our amplifier that we're running back into our harness here. So we're actually not using the speaker wire outputs of our aftermarket radio. In your case, if you're not running an aftermarket amplifier, go ahead and connect just color for color your speaker wire from the radio harness into the speaker colors of your aftermarket harness adapter. Again, color for color. Since we are doing it this way, I just wanted to make a quick note. Now at this point of time, with our connections now cooled, what we're going to do is move our heat shrink up and over those connections just like so, and we're going to shrink it down with the heat gun. Okay, at this time, with our tubes all shrunk down, let's go ahead and wrap our harness with some tested tape. It's going to keep our wiring all organized and clean. It also, we're going to provide a little bit of protection in the dash so nothing gets pulled apart or damaged. Alright, so we got everything taped up. Took a while, but here's all our connections that'll go to the vehicle. And then this end goes to our Kenwood radio. We got our aux all ready to go, as well as our backup camera wire. We have our antenna. We've got our radio module all done, good to go. We set our dip switches based on the instructions that come with the Crux module itself. This end obviously is the output wire that will come from our aftermarket amplifier that'll be under the seat. But again, don't worry about this. If you want to know how to install an aftermarket amplifier like this, we'll link that video down in the description so we can explain a lot more how we're wiring this up. But other than that, there's just a ton of connections here. It just takes a lot of good time. So spend the time, zip tie it, make it nice and clean, and essentially hopefully your harness will look like ours when you're all done. So at this point of time, we can now turn our attention over to the aftermarket radio and getting our kit assembled. Okay, so we got our dash kit mounted on the radio. It's pretty simple. Essentially, these side brackets screw into the faceplate as provided by the kit itself, and then the radio itself screws to the brackets. Make sure all your gaps are nice and even, and that's really it. Very simple dash kit to assemble. At this point of time, what we need to do now is head back to the car, and we're going to start getting everything reinstalled. Okay, so we're back here in the car, and now we are ready to start getting everything reinstalled. We grabbed our harness adapter, and what we're going to do is start making our connections here. Everything is keyed, so it only goes into one harness. Here your harnesses are nice and tight. Connected our USB plug. Take everything back in there. Start connecting everything to the radio. Alright, so I think we got everything connected. Now let's just go ahead and tuck everything back into the dash here. Alright, so before we go any further, let's go ahead and make sure everything's working by doing a test here. Okay, so everything's working great. Steering wheel controls seem to be working. At this point in time, let's reinsert and tighten up our 4 10mm bolts for the radio. Alright, so with that done, let's go ahead and pop this on in. Let's do a quick of the backup camera here. Perfect. Okay, so that's it. Pretty great. Now, just keep note, not every single button on the steering wheel control is compatible with this Crux adapter and radio, but that's okay. Everything's working great for what we need it for. Track up, track down, volume, voice recognition. At this point of time, we are done with this install. If you want to see how we did, a 4-channel amplifier, a sub amp, door speakers, the whole 9 yards on this thing. We'll link all those videos down in the description here for you. And if you have any questions on what we did here, go ahead and post a comment below. Thanks guys for watching. Be sure to hit the like button if you like what you saw, and don't forget to subscribe. We post great content on the channel all the time. We'll see you in the next video.